I've spent most of my academic life as a student at school and at university without a connected computer. And that frustrated me a lot. It bothered me a lot. What bothered me even more was the fact that the rest of the community that I lived with in Kayamandi township in Stellenbosch also had the very same experience. You actually have, even now, 90% of the community in the entire Stellenbosch who are not connected. And that bothered me, and I think what bothered me even more was the fact that within the Stellenbosch as an area, you have 10% of society that does have access or that is connected. And that situation continued to bother me a lot in my life, because essentially for me, as a student, to be able to access a computer, it meant that I had to wait in queues. I went to the University of the Western Cape, and to be able to access a computer, you had to share at the time with other students. Having waited in the queue and share with other 3 students in order to do your work. Or wait for your other colleague who's more privileged to give you either a laptop or to invite you to his room to be able to work. So that was the kind of struggles that one had to undergo. But I'm happy to tell you that today I'm part of the 10% of society. I'm now connected. When I go to work, I'm connected, I can access the internet, I can conduct my work. When I go back home, I'm able to conduct my business. When I'm in the public space, I'm able to connect to the internet via my mobile phone or a tablet. So I'm one of the few who has managed to cross over and live like the rest or part of the 10%. But you're probably asking yourself, what enabled me to cross over? And I think that's my story that brings me here today. That one day, someone in Stellenbosch decided, when they were about to discard computers, an old computer, and they were about to throw them away or even put them in some storeroom, they decided to give those computers to our school, Kayamandi High School. And that changed my life. It enabled me or inspired me to acquire education in the information systems. And during that period, the Computer Society of South Africa honored me with an award that was then called the ICT Student of the Year. I think it was in the early 2000s. And recently, the IEEE, which is the international body of computing, gave me the honor of hosting the Software Engineering Colloquium in Cape Town. All of that experience inspired me to start what today is known as the Kaya Labs. The Kaya Labs has as its sole mandate or objective to create a connected society. A society that is able to access knowledge as much as possible. Its sole objective is to bridge the digital divide. Now, imagine if what had happened to me could happen to the rest of that 90%. Imagine the old, for instance, tablet. If it could be accessible to some young person whose textbooks are not yet delivered. Imagine that kind of resource if it can be accessible to such people. It could create the next tech innovator or technology innovator. It could create the next award winner. It could create the next technology product for the continent or even the world. And that whole exercise or that observation for me inspired us at KaiLabs to develop what we've seen already taking place, what I call the Kaya model, which in some parts encourages this whole idea of sharing. The haves sharing with the have-nots. In other words, the old tablet that you consider to be old, the first version of it, that you probably want to throw it away, it probably means something to someone else, and it could change someone else's life. And that model also says you can actually be able to create that kind of society, a society that's connected, without necessarily producing more products. So, this very same model, one could say it is not necessarily sustainable because its very nature is dependent on people getting new products. It's dependent on you having received your new tablet, and after 6 months, the other one comes up, you want another one. So, what if you decide not to share? I mean, you can't depend on such a bizarre situation of people always wanting to get the new. So the very same model also encourages what we call, for lack of a better word, a personal device. Now, what is a personal device? A personal device is a device you buy once, and that's it. As a society, we do not need new devices each and every year. You do not need a new smartphone or tablet or whatever device that we may have currently. We do not need all such devices. The reality is that society or the system or the economic system is designed in such a manner that these devices are created. In fact, it's embedded on what I call the whole obsolescence model. Things are created and they're known to that they will have a very short life shelf and people will want another. The personal device, you buy one device, and having had that device, you live with that device. The only thing that changes is the software that's within that device. And in doing that, we believe that we can, to some extent, save our environment. Because the very same shiny things that we use that will end up within our environment are not good for us going forward. Therefore, we have a dream that one day we will have a society that uses only a personal device and only update the food within